Good morning to Claudia.
And I want to welcome everyone today because what I want to do is I want to try and first share my own thinking on cybersecurity items that I see are affecting not only my own practice, but the wider profession and organizations. And hopefully these are some of the thoughts that you yourself want to or think about or want to share at a conference like this, which is where we get re-inspired, learned, motivated as we share our own thoughts with other colleagues and peers. And maybe as we leave and go back to secure our own organizations, we probably even get braver to use some more or try other technological solutions to help our businesses as they all pivot for business and financial sustainability and growth. And that's how we continue to seamlessly underpin those activities in our cybersecurity practices. I think in the second half of my address this morning, I also want to introduce for those who may not know about the UK's new Cybersecurity Council and then see how the both fits together. So let me see if I can start. I think as we look around, we can see that the world has become virtualized. That is for sure. And I think we are struggling to keep up on what is happening. I think we are struggling on all levels to adapt to living, working, and doing business on a totally dominated virtual world. But let's start with what is this virtual world? And definitions of virtual touch on adjectives such as not physical, unable to be touched. So if we use that definition, let's look at its impact on our businesses and on organizations, on our lives and on our jobs. I look at the virtual ecosystem in two major parts, and that's data and lots of it. And we'll be talking about that throughout the conference. And then at the heart of it, driving and using data to make those decisions are us, the human element, that one physical part. But I think the decisions that make also a lot of influence in power, that central core, which is us, we are making the decisions and we have a lot of influence and power about how data is shaped and will be used in the virtual ecosystem. And already we can see that in the workforce, because at the heart of all our decision making today, in that virtual ecosystems as us, we have put well-being at the heart of all of our decision making. And that is making a big change. That is making a big change in how we decide to work, live, and interact socially. I mean, if you look at what are the key major apps, and whether it's Android or whether it's an Apple, well, games always take the first one, but then it's quickly. Secondly, business. Third, education. And fourth, lifestyle. It's the same. So that is telling you how much importance we place well-being at the heart of everything we do today. Managerial expertise is one of the things that I think are challenged in this new virtual world. Because I think now as managers, when we have a workforce that is virtual, it's not about managing by back-to-back Zoom calls. We need to apply oodles and oodles of emotional intelligence to managerial practices to keep our virtual workforce not just connected, but motivated, energized. And I also think it's about the challenges that we have in how we look on reward and recognition so that people remain valued even when virtually. And giving, we mean to give that support. So already we can see that with that changed workforce, it's bringing on the managerial side of us that we have to change. The common denominator in the virtual world anyway is data, and lots of it. And I want us to have a little bit closer look on this data that we're talking about, because it is a currency for the virtual world. We process it, consume it, store it. Data is the currency because it has value. If it didn't have value, then I don't think it would be the key motive for cybercrime. And it has value because it can be bought, it can be sold, it can be exchanged. And if we take last year as an example, if we want to look at the amount of data, we managed to create daily 3 quintillion bytes of data a day. But that doesn't mean anything to us. I'm starting to trying to get my head around the words that describe the amount of data. Quintillion, let me see if I can share maybe one of the easier parts of it. A quintillion is 18 zeros. But then since we started to create the 3 quintillion, about 3 quintillion bytes of data every day. By the time we had ended 2020, we ended up with 64 quintillion bytes of data, zettabytes of data, sorry. So our quintillion turned to zettabytes of data. What's that, a zettabyte? Well, a zettabyte, let's start with that. That's 21 zeros. So the quintillion was 18, the zettabyte is 21 zeros. But then I started to say, but I want to try to imagine what a zettabyte is. And then the more I looked at it, it came up with a definition, and I don't know if this will resonate with you as well. It said that a zettabyte is, look on it as if it's the data that we have in a high definition video that keeps playing for 34,000 years. So I've just decided that I'll stop trying to understand and visualize data in the oogles and oogles amount of it that we have today. So technology in this virtual world, the first component is us, and we have said that, right? And I think one of the things that is very, very clear is that as we create data, this is going to affect a lot of things that we do and how we use it as organizations. In AccuWeather, where I work, we get 9.7 billion search requests every day. Google gets 5.5. So if you add up all of those things, in AccuWeather, we don't talk, I mean, we have so much data. We talk about data lakes because that's the kind and volume of data that we're doing every day. But what does that mean for us? And I think that welcomes on the stage the areas that you will talk about this week, artificial intelligence and machine learning. There's no way that you can handle data without bringing those things on stage. Artificial intelligence to me comes like a high performance car. You have to drive it really fast to get the real features, feel, and the experience from it. And so that is the same way in which artificial intelligence is being used today, because those fast iterative processes that pass through these intelligent algorithms to be able to look at the features and changes, to be able to predict how we, who are at the center and the core of the decision making, what are some of the things that it feels that they would want to simulate in our decision making. And again, when you look on the machine learning, predictive, that's the difference for me in between the both a bit, because in machine learning, it loves data as well and has the fast iterative algorithms as well. But it is much more of a predictive, what it is that you think that you can predict. And for us, again, in AccuWeather, we can predict weather even more. We do it so well already. But let me talk about something else as well, because I think for us in the virtual world, as we work with data, one of the things that it focuses on is experience. And if we look on experience, one of the things that you will find is that we want to be able to have data on tap. And what does data on tap mean? Data on tap allows you to be able to have that data when you want it. And that is not hard to imagine. And that is brought out by the fact that almost 90% of the world has either a smartphone or a feature phone. So together we have 90% of the world already wanting data on tap. And what does that mean for mobile? Because if you talk about mobile technology, you'll be welcome on stage edge computing. Edge computing and content, you see, content data networking is all about features, all about providing information. And here comes edge computing. Edge computing, because what it is that you want to process your data as close to the source. You don't want to ask a question and have to wait. So low latency speeds are the big thing about this new technology. And of course, if we look at the fact that the Internet of Things is going to play a big feature in the experiences that we want, then we have to recognize that by 2025, there will be 40 billion devices that will be connected on the Internet of Things, which will probably raise the area of breaches to about 30%. But the good news is that in all of that traffic, at least 4 to 5 billion of that will be mobile again. That is telling you how people want data on tap. So that is edge computing. But what is being very, very clear is that with this amount of data and people wanting to be able to have data and have information on tap. The manual that we used to know is probably history. Automation is the only way to go. And I can see that in our own practices for cybersecurity, the way that we have the amount of data that we have to accumulate, we have to start orchestrating and bringing to a single platform that we can be able to make real-time decisions. So I think one of the things that we have to recognize that is the shifting of the way that we do things. For those of us who probably have completely migrated to the cloud, for those who still have on-prem and matters to do, today we are having to work between the two. And I think some of the practices and some of the ways that we did our business and unfinished business that we had, for example, asset management, still needs to happen. Today, it's a different day because now we have to have solutions that may incorporate different instances. We have millions of subscriptions that become part of a single solution. And so risk in the supply chain has never been more alive. So what I want to say today is that as we look on cloud solutioning, as we have to make decisions that have to deal with on-prem and cloud, it means that in terms of the things and the solutions that we need to do, we have to make sure that we have sound risk management that is going to allow us to make decisions based on prioritizing for resource, effort, and spend. And I think as we look on those areas, I think we need to make sure that we have good strategies. And many of us got caught into the cloud before we were able to create a good cloud strategy. And so we moved to the cloud and we keep the cloud something like an old attic where we can just throw things in there. But we've got to get our game together and make sure that we have good sound management, good security practices in the cloud. And if we're doing on-prem, we mix the two. So what I want to end the cloud section here and the virtual world is to say that there's a lot for us to do as we readjust this fast-paced virtual world. But I think it's time to join the dots and move to the next level. I want to then kind of move on to some of the things we're leaving behind us, all of the world of the virtuals, all the VPNs and RDPs and things that we have had to readjust and put a closer eye on. And I want to move to the UK Cybersecurity Council, because what a great time for the UK to have decided to form the UK Cybersecurity Council. The UK Cybersecurity Council, we started our journey on the 1st of April in 2021. And it's a self-regulatory body that will become the voice of the cybersecurity profession. And the government wants to see it as a steward to promote and provide the highest standards of expertise and excellence for the professional conduct and for cybersecurity profession. And I think it is really, really important at this time, because as we currently start to work with standards, we know that the capabilities, the mission for the council is about having and holding this profession to the highest standards. But at the heart of that, when we look at it, we also have just the government wanting to make sure that the UK remains one of the countries where it's the safest to work online and do business in the cyberspace. One of the things that we have started to do is to look at the standards for the profession. Because in anything, whether it's be our practices or anything, you also have to know what good looks like. So I think one of the things that we have started, and in our new committees, the ones that we have started, the first ones are standards and careers. And then the other one is about diversity and ethics. And I think how the council is running, that we are looking in both of those for professional standards, but also for the careers to be able to want to introduce and attract people to the profession and to create simple pathways that they can understand how they can come into the profession easily. And I think when we think of diversity, equality, and inclusion, that is not just for an individual view of it, but that's the same way in which we want to be able to wrap our arms around and support industries of all sizes and all sectors. And so that's when we think about diversity for the council. It is absolutely about the whole diversity of the industry and professionals. So I think one of the things that I think is important to us is that the council itself, while it is for the UK, it wants to make sure that it has global impact. And that can include you. And I hope that you will follow our journey, become part of that journey, and we would welcome you on that journey. So I invite you to look for us on the web and look at some of the things that we will be hosting that you can become part of, because I think it is important. So as part of the chair of the council, on the Board of Trustees for the Cybersecurity Council, I welcome you to do that and to be part of those agendas. So as I come to the close of this opening address, what I really want to say is that failure to plan for the virtual world is heading for failure in the virtual world. And that is why, as I said before, I wanted us to start connecting those dots to be able to enjoy it. It's completely different, but it is one in which we have to work in, one that is changing our lives, one which is depending on us as professionals to be able to keep it secure.
Great. Thank you so much, Claudia. Again, such great stuff there. I've written some of those numbers down just so I could try and get my head around them. Quintillions and zettabytes and 21 zeros and 40 billion devices on IoT by 2025. Some really good stuff there. I wondered, whilst we've got you, are there any other trends that the UK Cybersecurity Council anticipate might be coming around over the next couple of years? Maybe the trend of 2022 in terms of cybersecurity. What's that looking like?
I think clearly one of the things I think, and I think it's early days for the council to be making a lot of proffering. But if I try to, kind of wear a hat that's spanning two areas, one of the things that the council is looking on is the professional. What is the profession and what are the capabilities that we need to be able to survive in today's cybersecurity? And I think there are two things that I think stand out. One, if you notice that because I said that people are making the choices of what they want to do, well-being is at the heart of it. And so organizations are having to work remotely. One of the things that we know that is changing in the way that we recruit, in the way that we attract professions to organizations. And I think those who are late to the party, because a lot of organizations are still yet to announce what their culture is. If you don't know what the culture is, it's also very difficult to secure properly, because you have to start early to be able to understand what is the new culture of the organization. There is no, and even if it's hybrid, it's not the same. So never before that ever now, it is an opportunity to get great capability globally, when you have removed these geographical boundaries. And we expect from a council point of view as well, to look at how we use those areas of the profession that we know. We spoke about automation. We have security architecture, we have risk, we have penetration testing. You have all the things that make up the way that we secure things. But if you look on them, there's a lot of automation in the way that we work. And so the areas of the profession and the profession itself and the skill sets are going to see those changes.
That's really interesting, because when we talk about security, we really focus a lot on technology, don't we? But actually, as you said there, the people question is maybe even bigger if we're talking long term. There was a stat that I learned recently that I think there's 3 million vacancies within security over in the US alone at the moment. So it's exactly as you say, we need to attract, we need to retain, and we need to train people. So it's really interesting stuff. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.